Hello everyone. Today I'm going to tell you a story about one of the most powerful and talked about leaders in the world, Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia. His life is like a movie, full of struggles, action, and success. This is not just a story about a leader, it's a story about how a small boy with big dreams became one of the most influential men in the world. So, sit back, relax, and listen carefully, because this story will not only improve your English but also inspire you to believe in yourself. Let's start with his childhood. Where it all began. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin was born on October 7, 1952, in Leningrad, now known as St. Petersburg, Russia. He was the youngest of three children, but sadly his two older brothers died before he was born. This left him as the only child of his parents, Maria Ivanovna Putin and Vladimir Spiridonovich Putin. His family lived in a very small apartment in the city, in a communal flat, where several families shared common spaces like the kitchen and the bathroom. These conditions were normal in the Soviet Union at the time, where living standards were often low, and many people lived in cramped conditions after World War II. Putin's father had been wounded in the war, and his mother worked hard to take care of the family. Despite the difficult circumstances, his parents did everything they could to support him. They raised him to be disciplined, to value hard work, and to never complain about the circumstances. Putin's early childhood was marked by challenges. He was small and skinny compared to the other children. This led to bullying, but instead of being defeated, he found a way to stand up for himself. At the age of 12, he began practicing Judo, a Japanese martial art. Judo would not only help him physically but also teach him the values of discipline and patience. Through intense practice, he earned a black belt and built his confidence. The lessons he learned from Judo would stay with him throughout his life and help him in his future political career. While many of his peers dreamed of becoming doctors, engineers, or teachers, Putin had a different dream. He wanted to become a spy. The stories of the KGB, the Soviet Union's secret service, fascinated him. As a child, he would watch spy films and imagine himself working for the KGB. This dream led him to focus on studying law after finishing school, as the KGB often recruited those with legal backgrounds. From school to KGB, Putin attended Leningrad State University, where he studied law. Despite not being a particularly outstanding student in his early years, his determination to succeed became evident. He worked tirelessly to improve his grades and eventually graduated in 1975. Putin's career aspirations remained focused on the KGB, so he applied for a position with the agency immediately after graduation. The KGB was known for being highly selective, and it wasn't easy to get in. But Putin's persistence paid off, and he was recruited into the agency. At the time, the Soviet Union was still a major superpower, and the KGB was one of the most powerful intelligence agencies in the world. Putin's early years with the KGB involved working in intelligence and counterintelligence. He was initially stationed in Leningrad, where he was responsible for monitoring foreign students and workers. However, his big break came when he was transferred to East Germany in 1985, where he served as a KGB agent. This was a crucial time during the Cold War, and the work was highly sensitive. Putin was tasked with gathering intelligence, managing spies, and building contacts with various political groups. Living in East Germany was a pivotal experience for Putin. He became fluent in German, and the lessons he learned in this foreign environment helped him understand the importance of diplomacy, secrecy, and strategy. During this period, he also witnessed the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, an event that symbolized the collapse of the Soviet Union's control over Eastern Europe. This moment had a profound impact on Putin, and he realized that the Soviet Union was in decline. The collapse of the Soviet Union. In 1991, the Soviet Union officially dissolved, marking the end of an era. This was a time of great uncertainty in Russia, as the country struggled to transition from communism to a market economy. The political and economic landscape was in turmoil. Putin, who was still in the KGB, found himself at a crossroads. He could have stayed in the intelligence field, but he chose a different path. He left the KGB and entered politics, a decision that would ultimately change the course of Russian history. Putin's political career began in his hometown of St. Petersburg, where he worked in various governmental roles. In 1996, he moved to Moscow, where he began working with President Boris Yeltsin's administration. Putin quickly rose through the ranks, earning a reputation as a competent and efficient administrator. In 1999, Yeltsin appointed Putin as the Prime Minister of Russia. By this time, Russia was experiencing economic difficulties, and the country needed a strong leader to restore order. Putin was seen as someone who could bring stability to the nation. In 1999, as Russia faced a possible financial crisis, Yeltsin unexpectedly resigned, and Putin was appointed as acting president. Becoming president. Putin's presidency began in a time of great uncertainty. The country was struggling with economic problems, political instability, and a lack of national unity. Putin's early leadership focused on stabilizing the country and reasserting Russia's position as a global power. His first actions included efforts to restore Russia's economy and military strength. One of his primary goals was to consolidate power, which meant reducing the influence of oligarchs and businesses that had grown too powerful in the post-Soviet years. In 2000, Putin was officially elected as president of Russia. Under his leadership, the country began to experience significant economic growth, driven in part by rising oil prices. Putin's policies helped stabilize the economy, reduce inflation, and improve living standards for many Russians. His efforts to strengthen Russia's military and reassert the country's influence in the international arena were also widely praised. However, Putin's rise to power was not without controversy. Critics accused him of consolidating too much power, silencing political opposition, and suppressing media freedom. Nevertheless, his popularity remained high, and he was re-elected in 2004 for a second term. Challenges and global influence. In 2008, Putin was forced to step down as president due to constitutional term limits. However, his influence did not diminish. He was appointed as prime minister by his successor, Dmitry Medvedev, and continued to wield significant power. In 2012, Putin returned to the presidency after winning a contested election. His return was marked by widespread protests and accusations of election fraud, but Putin remained in power, determined to restore Russia's strength and protect its interests. Under Putin's leadership, Russia became more assertive on the world stage. His government intervened militarily in countries like Georgia and Ukraine, and his support for President Bashar al-Assad in Syria solidified Russia's role as a key player in Middle Eastern politics. These actions, along with Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014, led to strained relations with the West, particularly with the United States and the European Union. Sanctions were imposed on Russia, but Putin's grip on power remained strong. His popularity among many Russians, particularly in rural areas, continued to be high, as many saw him as the man who restored Russia's global standing. Putin's government has been marked by a focus on national pride and military strength. He has cultivated an image of a strong, decisive leader who will defend Russia's interests at all costs. Despite criticisms from international organizations and political opponents, Putin has remained resilient and determined to push Russia forward. The legacy of Putin. Vladimir Putin's presidency has been marked by both successes and controversies. He is credited with stabilizing Russia's economy, restoring national pride, and reasserting Russia's influence on the global stage. However, his leadership has also been criticized for its authoritarian tendencies, suppression of political opposition, and curtailment of civil liberties. As Putin's time in power continues, many wonder what the future holds for Russia. Will he continue to lead the country for many more years, or will a new generation of leaders emerge to bring change? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain: Vladimir Putin has left a lasting legacy on Russia and the world. He is a man who rose from humble beginnings to become one of the most powerful leaders in the world, and his story is one of resilience, determination, and an unwavering commitment to his vision for Russia.